Magneto's so hot in this show. That's how you know you're a superhero, when you wear the first initial of your superhero name on your chest.
And then he does it upside down for Wumbo. Oh no, he's hot.
Hello, true believers. My name is Dr. Hank McCoy. I'm listening. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Brent Birnbaum.
Dr. Niles McCoy.
Dr. Niles McCoy. Well, I like those glasses. Brent, a lot of people don't know, just wears those.
I do.
I like them. They're like Mr. Freeze meets the guy who shot John Lennon.
Nice
To meet you.
I did it because Cops on the Ride told me to.
Brent and I recorded Dark Phoenix. That was our third episode ever, and it was we recorded for 2 hours trying, and no matter how long we recorded, that book was still dog shit. Honestly, the whole storyline kind of is in general.
And bad. Every time there's an adaptation of Dark Phoenix, I skip it.
You know, ironically, the only time it was done well was in the 90s animated X-Men show.
You're right. You got
it. You know what you're talking about. That's why they call me Doctor. That's also why they call me the Beast, because I'll be beasting that ass, Larry. Today, we're going to be talking, obviously, about the Blue Man Group. The show X-97 I grew up on. It is considered by many to be the most perfect adaptation of X-Men ever done from page to screen. And even when they adapt storylines and put them in the shows, they're usually like 3-parters. It's absolutely perfect. The voice acting, the animation, everything is just, when I think X-Men, I think that. I can't even watch the original X-Men movies anymore after knowing what I know about Bryan Singer now and seeing all of the close-ups of Kitty Pryde. And Brett Ratner. Yeah. There was a funny line in the X-Men show where somebody said, what did you expect? Black leather?
Am I going to war or a circus?
What'd you expect? Black leather?
I actually go outside in these things. What would you prefer? Yellow spandex?
Seeing X-97 come out, I mean, we'll get into the cameos and everything in a second, but at least now we know Marvel is capable of animation, and this, I hate to use this word, was perfect.
I agree. Dare I say, the second greatest superhero show ever made.
Next to Daredevil.
Animated
Daredevil being animated. And number one would obviously be Fritz the Cat.
Series.
I mean, Batman the Animated Series.
The Critic.
Yes. It stinks. It's Trask. I never really cared about the X-Men because there's just so many of them, and the plot lines, there's, whenever you throw in time, it gets kind of all over the place. For whatever reason, I was always able to absorb, like Bishop, the X-Men animated show, and I didn't even go back and watch all of the original show, which you don't really have to, because this one does such a great job at starting a new chapter and paying tribute to the old ones. What are your thoughts about X-Men? Do you have a favorite X-Men? Do you have a favorite X-Men storyline? Like, what is it about X-Men that you like?
It's great. I agree completely. I think this is a absolutely perfect adaptation. Surpasses the original show, which was so good. I mean, it's right up there with Invincible right now. It's like the top kind of superhero animated show. Favorite X-Men? It's a great question, because I never liked the X-Men as much as other superheroes. Like, I was always a Spidey guy, or a Batman guy, or Fantastic Four,
or a Family Guy, Lois. One of the things I loved about this show is they sort of treated Wolverine like a sideline character, which, as opposed to the weird love triangle that he has in every other iteration, he was sort of a side character until the second to last episode, where you're like, oh damn. The one that I always liked was Cyclops, but like I was never able to identify with them as a whole, you know?
Right. I liked Cyclops too. Also, I think I loved, even though he wasn't an X-Men, he was a mutant. I loved Deadpool before, because like Deadpool was so ingrained with the X-Men for a while. But I really like the villains. That's what really kind of like. I think Magneto is the best Marvel villain. I think not the best superhero villain, like comics villain. That's obviously the Joker.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's a good point. Yeah. Because I was going to say he's the greatest villain of all time, but then you can't top Joker.
IGN actually ranked him as the greatest villain of all time, and I still think you have to give it to the Joker, but I think Magneto carries the torch for Marvel. I give it to him over Doom, over Zemo, or Red Skull, certainly over Norman.
Oh, yeah. There's nobody more powerful Can you think of anyone more powerful in the Marvel Universe than Magneto?
Like, are we including cosmic characters?
Sure.
Like Beyonder. I mean, Beyonder.
Beyonder. Okay, yeah. What
Molecule
about
Man?
Molecule Man? Galactus?
Probably Galactus.
But Galactus' head is metal, right?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, because Magneto could take Ultron.
Oh yeah, in a heartbeat. I mean, like there's who can't Magneto take? Also, by the way, I don't know if I pointed it out. He's in the shadows because he is Batman. Will Diamond is here with us in the background. Hello, Mr. Diamond.
Mr. Diamond.
What was it about this show that makes you say it surpassed the original X-Men show?
I think the pacing was better. I think they're allowed to do certain things being on Disney Plus that they couldn't do before.
What was it?
Like
Fox? WB?
Yeah, I think exactly. I think it technically was considered a kid show, even though it really wasn't when it was on the air before. So it's kind of like I always compare it to, say, like Avatar: The Last Airbender versus a show like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a near perfect anime-esque show, but there are just certain things it couldn't do by being on Nickelodeon. It couldn't kill certain characters.
Couldn't make any good live action reboots.
Couldn't. Hey, that Shyamalan movie.
Hey, come on! That of all the movies I've seen, that is an M. Night one.
That is one of them.
Hey, stick me in a cabin and take away one of my six senses because I don't want to see that anymore. Drown me with the lady in the water, please.
Like they're able to take risks in this show, like what they do with episode 5, which is obviously incredible. And also, for instance, I don't think they ever directly say Magneto was in the Holocaust in the original show. They kind of more
they don't ever say it, but one time Charles uses his telepathy to make him relive the Holocaust.
No, Magneto. You will stop.
If I were Magneto, like that's the day we're not friends anymore. You know, like that's
like, bro, what the fuck?
Of all the things that you could have, like, I've been molested. Make me relive that day, not the Holocaust. My favorite characters in this season were Rogue, Beast, obviously. I would have to say Scott because he finally got to step up and be the leader of the X-Men. This season made me realize Professor X, kind of a giant dick.
Total dick.
They like my X-Men. I forgot what panel it was, but someone was like, this is your school. We're not your X-Men. We're your students, but we don't belong to you. And he's a jackass. And also, what did you think was going to happen if you left Magneto in charge of the school? And also, you're going to have to explain to me the whole Shi'ar Empire thing, because that was a whole other thing too that I
hate the Shi'ar.
I know you hate the Shi'ar. Oh, God, don't get this man started on the Shi'ar. The Shi'ar are not his friends. We are not going to be talking about them today. Will was with me when I watched the first 5 episodes of 97. If you haven't seen the show already, don't watch this episode. When does Gambit die? 6? 5. So when we got to 5, the episode before, when we got to 5, Will was like, I just brace yourself. I hope you're ready for this. Prep for this. And had he not been sitting next to me and I didn't have so much toxic masculinity in me, I would have bawled my eyes out. It made me sad over a character I never really cared about in the first place. And you don't ever even have to watch any X-Men things to watch this show. Like this will get you hooked. This will get you fucking hooked on the X-Men, Larry. Fucking Rogue, fucking Bishop. They got a motherfucker who controls magnets.
I was gonna hold off because I was rewatching the original, and Will texted me, goes, after episode 5, he goes, "You gotta watch, man. You gotta watch." And so I skipped my rewatch of the original. I just went directly in, and I'm so glad I listened to Will there because it was incredible. Also, what a shout out, my dude Morph. Morph crushing it.
Morph was the best. Was he in any of the other episodes before?
I actually think Morph is technically non-binary in it, which is cool representation. Morph was so funny though.
When that first scene where Morph walks in, I went, "What the fuck? The professor is alive!" It was like, if you watch a show long enough, they'll tell you what's happening. And I never really knew anything about Morph, and he ended up being the breakout underdog of that show for me. And I loved him. I want to see if we were going to have a Morph movie, I think you got to get a guy like Kyle Mooney to play him.
Ooh, Kyle Mooney would be a cool Morph. Yeah, because Morph was a standout character for me in the Age of Apocalypse storyline from the 90s. And so this version of Morph is very much like that character. And I really loved how they addressed PTSD with Morph in this show, Because in the original show, what Sinister does to Morph is so fucked up, and they really build on that.
What did he do?
Brainwashes Morph, like gets him to like basically nearly kill all their friends, and like really is just horrible. Like treats Morph horribly and imprisons them.
Yeah, that's the thing about supervillains, man. They're never doing anything good for you. I have to water fountain this bottle because I don't want to mess up my beast makeup.
I keep thinking Frasier lines, even though I know.
Oh yes, Niles. I do work with Professor X this morning for breakfast. We're having a tossed salad and scrambled eggs. Yes, of course. The Sentinel program it would remind me of something that is dangerous to our future. I'll tell you what's dangerous to our future. My bloodline. If you two keep yapping about. I hate to not bring up negatives, but I'm going to bring up one negative and then also turn it into two positive because that's a rule. I can't stand Jubilee. I never liked her.
Jubilee sucks.
What I mean, I don't. They even made fun of it in the show at one point where they were talking about her firework powers. But I understand why she's there because X-Men has caused me two of the biggest controversies on this podcast so far. One of them being when I was right and I said that "I'm Your Baby Tonight" had the same or sound. All I said was they pulled off a heist in the theme song when I should have said it sounded similar. But they do. And if you disagree with me, you're wrong. And more importantly, you're publicly wrong.
I can't wait for you to bring up the second controversy.
Oh yeah, the second controversy, the Malcolm X Martin Luther King thing. When I said they weren't based off those guys, what I should have added is throughout history, there were probably times where writers had based them off of them, right? Like I've always felt X-Men, as I'm reading it, to be an allegory for LGBT plus, especially the more they lean into Born This Way and the more I looked at Jubilee and Sunspot in this season. And I see why people, I mean, the language is very naked, and it's almost Bible belters in the show that don't want mankind replaced, because it's like, that's not natural. But X-Men, the plight is the underdog, and whatever you think they are, or whatever you think the analogy is, that's what it is.
Exactly. I think you were technically right because they weren't. First, Stanley and Kirby, they didn't have that characterization originally, Xavier and Magneto. They were just kind of a by-the-books hero and villain. And then when Claremont came in, that's when you got the Holocaust origin story for Magneto. But Claremont, who lived in Israel for a while, based Magneto off Menachem Begin and Xavier off David Ben-Gurion. But he also did say...
And who are those guys, by the way? Just as a background.
Yeah, they were both former. I'm pretty sure David Ben-Gurion was, but Menachem Begin was definitely former prime minister of Israel, and he had a very hardline policy similar to Magneto. But Claremont has said the civil rights analogies. It's totally cool to see that. It's like what you had said about Gwen's story being a trans awakening story. That's
no mean comments underneath that video. No one said anything to me about that. Trust me.
I know. If you see it as that's totally cool.
I got a lot of crazy messages about that.
Dude, what's crazy is you're the one who said the thing about the Malcolm X Martin Luther King. I caught so many strays on that.
I know you did, and you know why? It's because you're a mutant.
Fools, you have doomed the boy.
And what's Sinister's deal? What's his origin, Brent?
Sinister.
I feel like Norm. And what's this guy? Sinister. Maybe not a guy I'm gonna trust and think he's gonna cross me. Because his name is Sinister. Had his name been Sincere, I may work with him in Bastion. Which, great name, by the way, short for Sebastian. You know what else is short for Sebastian? Seb.
I love the Norm. Sinister was a Victorian scientist who, I don't actually know if Sinister was originally a mutant. Sinister became obsessed with immortality and started experimenting on mutants to prolong his life. And so that's how he becomes so kind of twisted, and he eventually meets and Sabanur Apocalypse and becomes like Apocalypse's number 2 guy. and does all these experiments for him. But Sinister always has his own agenda.
Christopher Walken Sinister. What would he be looking at the X-Men and he sees them coming? What is he gonna do?
These X-Men, they're gonna catch me, but not if I use my powers to experiment on them. Specifically, I'm gonna catch Cyclops.
Not before I get to you first, bub. I got the power of not cursing on network TV, you egg-sucking piece of trash.
Don't worry, I'm going to disappear, but not before I clone Jean Grey in a very convoluted scheme.
Just like you made Natalie Wood disappear, bub.
But yeah, so Sinister is obsessed with the DNA of Scott Summers and Jean Grey, and he wants to use them to create the perfect mutant, which he does, and infects with the technovirus, which is Cable. Because Cable, if not for the technovirus, would be the most powerful mutant. He has to use his incredible telekinetic abilities to keep the virus at bay. That's why in the Age of Apocalypse, there's a variation of Cable created named Nate Gray. And Nate Gray, also known as X-Man, eventually makes it into the 616 universe and is like the most powerful mutant.
Well, damn, now I got to change the name I use on OnlyFans. Why don't we start most stories where they start at the beginning? We have 10 episodes of X97 available all on Disney+. Brent has volunteered to share his password with everybody if you don't have a Disney account. Break us down. Give us... so for the first episode, to me, my X-Men.
Yeah, so basically we pick up where the last show finished off. So Xavier in the last episode of the original show was nearly killed by Henry Peter
CIA.
Gyrich.
Oh, right.
CIA, yeah, pretty much the CIA. He was a super racist guy who hates...
CIA?
Donald Trump found guilty.
Yeah, that was like 20, 30 minutes ago. I'm looking at all these X-Men. Have you seen the X-Men? They got the guys up in the house, up in the mansion. I never knew Charles Xavier. He's a little guy. Then I find out all of a sudden he's in a wheelchair. You got all those mutant powers, but you can't make your legs work. I go, what the hell is wrong with that guy? Have you seen Wolverine? He got these claws. They go, shing, shing. I look at him. I go, ooh, that's a bad guy. Bad. Hombre. Rogue, that's a piece of ass right there, Rogue. Storm needs to be deported back to Kenya. That's what I'm saying. She was born in Kenya. We haven't seen her birth certificate. And Wolverine is gay because he's Canadian.
We need to put the president away. It's unacceptable. But Cable and his use of gun, I'm okay with that. Because in the beautiful state of Vermont, many people use guns. There's nothing wrong with it.
Let me be clear. The X-Men are also made of some women, too. And
Yes, and I think I'm gonna fuck Rogue and Storm this time.
Yes, I think so too. Bobby had them both last time, and Rogue touched him right on the skin, and then the back of his head just blew out. It was insane.
You know, I really like.
I knew it was coming.
So we picked up last show. Gyrich tried to kill Xavier, and so Xavier can't be saved on Earth. So Magneto used his powers to amplify Xavier's brainwaves to get in contact with the Shi'ar. They have the technology to save Xavier. They take him into space, but the X-Men tell the world that Xavier has died. So we pick up a year after that has happened. The X-Men are still active. They're being led by Scott Summers. They're doing their thing, but the Friends of Humanity.
You made them all Jehovah's Witnesses too, which I thought was weird. That was like
I thought that was an odd choice too.
And they were like, "Let's not celebrate, gang. It's not in the Bible."
So the Friends of Humanity, they're a racist group that like is aligned with Gyrich.
I love that their lines are FOH. Fuck out of here, mutants. Fuck out of here. Take that shit away with your fucking mutant powers. He's over here talking to machines, this guy.
They actually really like Vietnamese soup, so it actually is just faux.
Faux.
They capture someone whose powers just emerged, Rio DaCosta.
The name Sunspot definitely got more flair.
They save Sunspot, or DaCosta, he's not Sunspot yet. Cyclops has an insanely cool act.
Awesome. An amazing intro for Cyclops.
Good guy or bad guy?
Name's Cyclops. Definitely the good guy.
When they make him take his glasses off and he's like, no, please, I surrender.
Not.
He hit him with the Borat. Not.
But they notice the technology they have is very advanced, Sentinel-esque technology, and there's only one man that could be responsible for that, Mr. Boulevard Trask.
Steve Jobs. It's 97, so he's still around. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to unveil Apple's new Sentinel 12 Pro Max.
So they need to find Trask, and the only way they can find Trask is through Gyrick. So they take Jean. Jean gets inside Gyrick's head. They figure out where Trask is.
But something happens to Jean when she's in his head.
First thing she sees is a coloring page, which is Bastian's coloring page from the house that you see later on. You hear the voice of Cable from when I'm running out of time. He's coming from Genosha, and then all of the death around her is what foreshadows the death that later happens.
It's like what Zack Snyder tried to do with that Flash scene in Batman versus Superman. For that to be so powerful that a telepath who arguably is Jean Grey the strongest X-Men, she had to take off Cerebro and go, this is messing me up too much. I gotta take this off. So you're, as a viewer, you're going, oh man, what did she see?
Yeah, good point. And but they are able to find Trask. And we get another amazing action sequence where the X-Men come together.
And what's that guy they got to take down? What's that Sentinel's name?
Master Mold.
Master Mold. That's what I call my fleshlight.
You do.
Anyway, they see Master Mold because that's what Jean saw in her vision, and then they go and take it down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And Trask is arrested. They go back to X Mansion. They're all high-fiving. They're playing basketball. It's very Top Gun-esque. They're like, we did it. And then all of a sudden, someone appears. Their greatest enemy.
Yeah. There's one little detail in there I like, because I was watching it a second time, and I was like, because he's holding the book, The Last Will and Testament of Charles Xavier, and he's not using his hands, he's using his powers. And I'm like, book Scott ain't got no metal. And then when he hands it back to Scott, it's got a little gold thing on the edges.
Nice.
And I go, oh, okay, yeah, that's smart. That was smart. That was very smart. But you know what's not smart? Professor X leaving the X-Men to Magneto. I'm sorry, like, you think your death is going to change his heart?
To a well-known terrorist.
Yeah, to a terrorist. To somebody who obviously, they jump on it pretty quickly, and they're like, yeah, you don't get to just live up here, dog. We gotta deal with this. But Magneto's so hot in this show. And then he's got the M on his shirt. Like, that's how you know you're a superhero, when you wear the first initial of your superhero name on your chest.
And then he does it upside down for Wumbo.
For Wumbo, that's when he...
Oh, no, he's hot.
When Rogue wouldn't sleep with him, he goes, what if I turn it upside down for Wumbo? And she's like, that's just a cat that's going to have to stay in the bag. 3 cat references in that episode. First time, Rogue goes, well, that just went about as well as a cat in the yarn store overnight. And then the second one was when Magneto goes, we almost had something, Rogue. And she goes, well, that cat's just going to have to stay in the bag. And then there's another point where she's like, why are you dancing around like a cat on a hot tin roof? And I'm like, you go to a school, broaden your worldview of references. And I'm glad this first 2 episodes came out as a 2-parter. I binged this all by the time 5 came out. But that is a great ending from that, because you, as an audience member, are thinking, he had a plan, but I bet you it was wrong.
But Magneto's kind of like Michael Corleone in this. He's every time I try to get out, they
pull me back in. And that's my job, because I got master of magnetism. I pull things to me.
He's trying to be better. He's trying to follow in his dead friend's footsteps. And he's leading the X-Men. He's doing a great job. Good job.
I mean, he does some good.
He saves Leech.
That's right. And then I did love that line. Those mutants were getting kicked out of the sewer, and he goes, you deny them the dignity of living amongst your waste. And I go, God, man, Magneto's getting up there to be one of my favorites of all time, man.
He's so cool.
Him as a hero, that you see, okay, this is why Charles left you in charge. And what's the turning point for him?
So he starts getting more radicalized when he goes to the UN in episode 2.
He puts the flea collar on and goes to the UN, and they got him chained up there to plead his case, which he doesn't really have one.
He's like, I did it.
He's like, I did it. What do you want me to say? I liked it. Let me tell you something. I liked it. Hell, I loved it. Let me tell you something, man. I loved it. What's the escalation of things that happen that makes Storm lose her powers? Is it when the January 6th guy comes in?
Exactly. He's a friend of humanity. His name is Executioner, stupid name. And he has the ability to fire, I think, an arm cannon that can take away your powers. And this, we get one of the cooler Morph fights, where Morph basically cameos as some of the best X-Men that aren't in the show while fighting Executioner.
I was gonna say, I think that's why they use Morph, to give us the cameos we were never gonna get. The only time it's weird is when he's talking to other characters as that person, and I'm like, Morph, you innocent free, you look like NoHo Hank from Barry would be a great Morph.
That would be an amazing Morph.
He would play a fantastic Morph.
Oh, hi, Wolverine.
Hi, Wolverine. How are you doing? Yeah, so I'm worried about the plating on the setting of the table. Bub, we got sentinels attacking us right now. I know, but what shoes should I wear to go out and fight them?
Do I not say this enough, Magneto? You're like most evil guy I've ever met.
That guy comes in and who is he aiming for? Magneto, right? He aims that gun at Magneto.
He's aiming for Magneto.
And it hits Aurora. And she loses her powers and her Nike sponsorship. I would mourn this if I knew they're coming back. That's why Iron Man was so sad, because I was like, oh, I know this your last movie.
That's why, yeah. We'll get to it in episode 5. They call it the Red. They called it the Red Wedding. It's not the Red Wedding, because in the Red Wedding, all the protagonists die.
Yes.
Had Magneto actually died in that episode, it would have been. But it's a very sad episode.
Not for nothing, I was thinking about you all day after watching that episode a second time. You totally know that's going to happen, because, to quote Shirley, things are going a little too good for you. And then when he died, I was like, now I'm really sad for Rogue.
And you grow to love him after he died. Episode 2 ends with Storm losing her powers. She leaves the X-Men, and then something crazy happens at the end of the episode. A woman shows up who looks just like Jean Grey.
Yes.
And they're like, I don't know which one to shoot.
Yeah, I know. Shoot him. He's the real Bender. No, shoot me. I'm the real Bender. Wait a minute. Now, Madeline Pryor is no relation to Richard, but she is who?
She's a clone of Jean Grey, created by Mr. Sinister.
For what reasons, we're not going to ask him, but it's more or less like one of those things like, why did they let the professor make so many little girls in the Powerpuff Girls, you know? Is that why he excommunicated Mojo Jojo? Because he started to talk too much? He wasn't evil. He was just a whistleblower. Fire made flesh. What does that mean?
Episode 3 is more backstory for Madeline and Jean, and you get the whole them trying to decide if Jean's memories are her own. Because in the previous episode, that's when Nathan is born.
And Scott's like, oh, those memories you have of going through my phone and reading those texts, definitely Madeline's. Definitely didn't happen to me. Nope, not at all. And I guess fire makes me think of the Phoenix. So that made flesh.
I like that.
You know, I just figured that. I feel like Trump. Wow, I just figured that out myself. Fire made flesh. Jean Grey is also the Dark Phoenix. We love the Dark Phoenix. It's a bird. It goes squawk, squawk.
Well, what's crazy about that is this woman shows up, who's been kidnapped by Sinister. So everyone assumes that's the clone, but it turns out the clone is the Jean that we've been hanging out with the entire time. She's the real clone, and the woman that's been captured is the actual Jean. So Madeline is the person we think is Jean, but is actually the clone, gets inside her head. She ends up becoming the Goblin Queen.
That's what I call my ex. Her mutant power was pissing me off.
I'm going to make this relationship disappear.
You see, I'm just a guy chasing ass. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You know, I just have pink eye.
Madeline takes Nathan to Sinister. Sinister infects Nathan, the baby, with a techno-organic virus.
You don't say. The guy named Sinister. He does something evil.
They end up saving Nate. And they end up saving Madeline from Sinister. Sinister escapes, but they realize they don't have the technology.
Nate's a baby at this point?
Nate's a baby, exactly, but they don't have the technology to treat him in this time, so they give him to Bishop, and Bishop takes Nathan into the future to fix him, and he will eventually become Cable.
And then after that, we have Matt.
We can skip this one.
Yeah. You know, Will said the same exact thing to me when we watched this episode. He was like, you can watch it, but like, you really don't need to. And the next one is the one everyone's talking about. The case that doesn't get helped is the thumbnail was Jubilee. So Jubilee did not give a fuck and move on to the next episode. And this was the one that had everyone on the internet crying for about a week. And by the way, of all the original voice cast, Rogue is original, right?
It's interesting. So some of the original, like Wolverine's the original, Storm's the original, Rogue, Sinister, those are the original. And sometimes the original voices play different characters. So the original Gambit now plays Cable.
He sounds just like Josh Brolin. I don't know if they were doing that on purpose. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I was like, Oh man, he sounds like and like Josh Brolin's Cable was amazing.
Seriously.
And that is proof that you could put out a Marvel movie outside of the studios after you put out a Marvel movie, because that movie came out right after
Infinity War.
And then Dark Phoenix came out after Endgame. And they tried to blame it on that, but really it was because they said Return of the Jedi wasn't a good movie.
Did they say that?
In that movie, Jean Grey, when they're leaving the theaters, she's with 2 other mutants, and she goes, they were like, what'd you think? And they go, it's like a joke because this is obviously the third in the prequel trilogy of X-Men movies, but she goes, everybody says the third one's never as good. And I was like, I would rather watch the fat woman dance in Return of the Jedi for 10 hours than watch 1 second of X-Men Dark Phoenix. That's how bad of a movie it is, because it cannot be adapted, because the Phoenix Force should have gone to Storm.
So in this one, the mutant nation of Genosha is being recognized as part of the United Nations as a way of the world saying, hey, we fucked up. We've treated you all terribly.
Now go back to Africa.
We feel bad about Xavier getting killed, so we're going to give you your own nation. And so 3 X-Men decide to go to the mutant nation of Genosha: Magneto, Rogue, and Gambit.
What is the big conflict in Remember It?
In Remember It, they get to Genosha. The question is, who is going to lead this country? Because there is a council of mutants on the Genosha Council. There is Sebastian Shaw, Emma Frost.
Who was on the council, but they did not grant him the rank of master.
Genosha, they're figuring out who's going to lead this nation. They decide, hey, we should get Magneto to do it. Magneto's like, I'm only going to do it if Rogue leads it with me. And this is where we find out that Rogue and Magneto actually had an affair in the past when Rogue was younger and she was more villainous.
Also, where's Mystique, by the way? Can I ask that?
I don't know where Mystique is in 97.
Because Nightcrawler references her, and I'm like, did something happen to her in the original show?
Mystique was
his mother,
was the adopted mom of Rogue, exactly, and the actual mother of Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler crushes it too. I love that he becomes an official member of the X-Men, starting in episode 5, really, because he's kind of hanging out with Gambit and Rogue.
And he was like, wow, these accents, I'll fit right in.
Is that good?
Was he in the movies? It was that guy who played Floop in the
Alan Cumming.
Yes, Alan Cumming. I can never remember his name because I go, his last name can't be Cumming, and then it always is.
Magneto says, I'm only going to lead if Rogue does it with me. Turns out Rogue and Magneto had an affair because Magneto has this magnetic abilities.
He got that magnetic dick.
He's it's able to kind of abate Rogue's powers. They're able to actually touch. And so Rogue decides to accept Magneto's offer.
But he's like, still can't do foreplay, by the way. Still can't do foreplay.
Sorry, I got carpal tunnel. There's this huge kind of ceremony where people are dancing, they're singing, they're moving to the groove in. And just when it happened, somebody shouted out and they said, play that funky music, white
boy. Play that funky music, Brent.
And then all of a sudden, Madeline Pryor, who's there, decides to step outside, get some air, and Cable appears. This is Cable's first appearance of the series, and he's like, you guys got to go. You got to get out of here. And then Madeline looks at his eyes, and she's like, holy shit, Nathan. And she realizes Cable is Nathan. Like, he's always been Nathan. This guy, this old warrior dude that they've known, is actually her son. And Cable then says, I'm so sorry, Mom. And he disappears. And she's like, what are you sorry about? But Cable just disappears into time, and an enormous blast appears from
By the way, he's sorry because he ended up going to school for musical theater. He got a theater degree.
He's a big fan of Gilbert and Sullivan.
But the explosion appears. Krakatoa.
It vaporizes all these mutants, including Madeline. So Banshee gets killed. Sebastian Shaw gets killed.
Who is also the Darth Vader guy's name, right? The guy at the end of Return of the Jedi who they unmask him. His name is Sebastian Shaw.
Stan.
No, wait. Really? If I just got Will over a Star Wars question, I'm going to be happy for the first time in my life.
Yeah, it's Shaw, dude. You got me.
Oh, my God!
You blew it!
Ladies and gentlemen, you got it.
Oh, you stink!
Will is starting his own talk show, Will of the Force.
Crazy to have a Star Wars podcast and know the second most about Star Wars on Secret Identity. The Tricentennial is absolutely firing off beams in a just tragic scene. They're all wiped out. Magneto disappears. It's implied that he's dead, but we as the audience know he's not dead because we don't see a body.
Comic book rule: no body, no death.
Mhm,
Wanda Maximoff still alive.
Wanda Maximoff still alive for sure.
In
Wanda
this show,
Maximoff's still
off
alive.
planet. At the end, it says off planet, which means they'll probably bring her back for season 2. But Wanda is alive. Han Solo alive. He showed up at the end of episode 9 because they paid Harrison Ford $300 million for him to go, I got no fucking idea where the Force Ghost is, kid. I'm gonna go crash a plane. The hell is a Yoda?
That's not how the Force works.
So Rogue flies straight at the Sentinel beast, but Gambit's like, I'm not going to let you do it. He charges his motorcycle, hits Rogue out of the air as the Sentinel's getting ready to kill Nightcrawler and a bunch of the surviving mutants, but then it stabs Gambit. Gambit is stabbed, he's seemingly dying, and then he says one of the all-time greatest lines as he charges the Sentinel monster with kinetic energy.
My only regret is I didn't cure bonitis.
You know what's crazy? I was actually thinking that.
I was waiting for you to say it. What's the line he actually says, though, after he commits vehicular manslaughter and does a hit and run?
He says the name's Gambit. Remember it.
That's a comic book death because we see the body, and most importantly, it's held by Rogue. And
what does she say?
I can't feel you. I can't feel you. Will was next to me. We both, even though he'd seen it already, you could feel no air in our bodies. Like, that was probably most powerful voice acting I've ever seen in a Marvel show. Just in general, top 5, really. And I just remember being like, okay, I need a break to process this, because that just her performance and delivery in that is what made me lose. I didn't cry the first time because I was with a man, as I said, and we're not allowed to cry around each other. But I did lose it the second time, and I just. It changes her character. It's definitely not a fridging death. You knew it was going to happen because they were starting to get real close with each other. And when Gambit was going up to make the sacrifice, I was like, oh, there go Gambit. It was Rogue's reaction that made me sad.
I agree. I have a question for you guys. Would you say, I think we can agree, Robert Downey as Tony Stark death being the number 1 most impactful death in the MCU. Would you say this is number 2?
Is this MCU?
Yeah, I mean, it's a multiverse.
I get, yeah. Here's the thing. Impactful. I almost said I was confusing impactful with surprising, because going into Endgame, I knew it was Chris Evans and Robert Downey Jr.'s last movies. So I was like, one of them gonna die.
Yeah, that's true.
One of them's gonna go. Impact as a fan and watching a character you love and watching other characters you love react to that. Yes, I agree. Yeah. I almost said Vision, but that was just the most hurtful.
He's back though.
He's back, but it's like C-3PO when he got his memories wiped. He's just a vessel. Vision was hard to watch because of the Wanda thing and the dialogue they had. This was definitely second most impactful because of what it led Rogue and the other mutants to do as a result of it. And I also think it's a catalyst for Magneto.
Mine was off screen. It was Black Panther.
Oh yeah.
Just because that beginning of that movie starts off with the funeral and like you don't see the death, but that's sad. Aunt May's is also pretty bad.
Yes.
May's too.
Nat's death in Endgame is pretty bad too. I mean, it's sad, but also what makes it sad is the Avengers around when they're all talking about him. Like, did she have any family? And they're like, we were her family.
And also, you guys have been friends for how many years? And you're just asking now if she has any family?
And the way Hawkeye deals with it in the Hawkeye series too is like really resonant. Yeah.
That whole phase of Marvel, I felt like, was about grief, and I thought Black Panther's death was handled perfectly because we as an audience were Cherie. We didn't get to say goodbye to Chadwick. We didn't know it was coming, and then we're just left with this giant gaping hole inside of us. And it's really, I wish they would have recasted the part because he's such an important character. But that ending, when I cried harder than I have at the end of any Marvel movie in my life, when they go meet T'Challa's son, and
Yeah.
he's carrying on the legacy because that's what these stories are all about, passing the torch. Sam Wilson gets to be Cap at the end of Endgame. Bucky already knows Cap's not coming back because he goes, "You're taking all the stupid with you," and then seeing that so like maybe Young Avengers will get Black Panther, but that one hurt me as a person the most, like watching it on screen and not show, like when the movie starts and I hear the boop boop, I'm like, no, I'm not ready for this. And Angela Bassett's death in that was kind of hard too.
Oh yeah.
The aftermath of Remember It, we get life death.
Storm gets her powers back, and Xavier decides to come back to Earth.
How does she get her powers back? Oh, Forge comes around, and Forge is the lead singer of El DeBarge, and Forge is pretty cool, man.
Forge is cool.
What's his power? I guess Forge and stuff.
Yeah, he can make anything. He's like, did you ever watch Static Shock?
Did I ever watch Static Shock? Gotta get up, gotta go, gotta get up. I was around when they were trying to make Jaden Smith Static Shock.
He's like Gear on Static Shock.
Oh, okay, got you. Cool. When Beast is fascinated with a character, I'm always very intrigued because, would you say he's the smartest X-Men, Beast?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
By far, right? Yeah. Because I was going to say Charles, but not really. Like, compared to Beast. Charles is smart, but, like, Beast is...
Beast, they list, like, he has, like, a secondary power of super intelligence.
That's very true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a third power of a Beast Schlong. In the episode Bright Eyes... This is the episode before the 3-part finale, which the 3-part finale, I think, is God, probably the best thing I've seen in Marvel in years. I've watched this so many times. But what happens in Bright Eyes that leads up to this?
Yeah, so at the end of Life Death Part 2, Trask is on the run. He's like, fuck, I can't believe the Sentinel did this. And we seemingly find out the guy behind Genosha, and it's Sinister. But we as the audience were like, there's got to be more than this. Sinister wouldn't just commit genocide.
Yeah, we see
genocide.
How many episodes are left.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're like, there's something else is at play here because Sinister he's a weird geneticist who just wants to create the ultimate life form. There's something more going on. So we start to figure out what's going on in Bright Eyes. But the X-Men realize, okay, the person that we need to figure out, we need to talk to is Trask. So again, Rogue decides to go after Gyrick because she finds out Gyrick escapes. But she doesn't know where he is. But who does know where Gyrick is?
The U.S. government, because he's at the same place where Osama bin Laden is.
America's ass, baby.
Yes! Oh, Cap! The cameos in this were perfect cameos. Like Kevin Feige, I remember reading in an interview once said that, I'd love to throw cameos in all of these shows, but you have to figure out whose story it is we're telling here. And every cameo that was in this, from Spidey to Doom to Zemo to Cap.
Doom.
They were there. Doom had one line.
And it was epic.
It was incredible, and it all was there to serve a purpose. Doom went... Nuke Wakanda, and they went end call.
Cap had reservations about helping Rogue because good people on both sides.
There's good people. Look, you look at Rogue and you look at Magneto, good guy. Both sides, you look at him and you go, I wonder who was there. Did it even happen, Genosha? We're looking at it. They tell me a big asteroid is gonna come out of the sky. Asteroid M, that's what they call it. I'm gonna put a big beautiful Trump over it. In the aftermath of Gambit dying, this is when the big thing is we find out the Sentinel, right? What did Bastion do?
We figure out the person that sent the Sentinel was this guy named Bastion, because Rogue, in an incredibly, just absolutely, just no sympathy whatsoever. She's at her wit's end. She's like done with Gyrick. She's done with Trask. This guy Bastion, who's the one who's actually behind everything, and he's been working with Zemo, ends up killing Gyrick. And so when they find Trask is like, yeah, dude, Sinister, he's crazy. You guys need to help me. And Rogue is like, where is Sinister? He's like, I don't know. And so Rogue just drops him from like 10 flights in the air.
And then Nightcrawler, when she drops him, goes, Frog, what have you done?
Yeah, Morph is like, is this what we are now? And Wolverine's like, fuck, yeah, this is what we are.
I do like that. He's like, God damn it, I've been waiting for this for years. I've only been able to slap people with these claws. God damn it, Wolvie can use all 6 of them now. I've been wiping my ass with them for months.
But Trask doesn't die.
No, because he turns into
A Prime Sentinel,
a
which is a
Prime
human Sentinel cyborg.
This is one of the scariest X-Men episodes for me because they're cornered. Like, there's no way out. Every mutant on Earth would have died had Magneto not done what he'd done. And by this point, who is it that somebody FaceTimes Bastion and tells him that the woman from the UN let Magneto out? And he goes,
Sinister.
Yeah, Sinister goes, she's out. And he goes, that's predictable. And Magneto, she goes, Magneto was right. And honestly, I'm not somebody who sides with villains, but in this case, yeah, he was.
Yeah, for sure, Magneto was, because this is where the episode ends with Bastion, who is the guy who's been behind everything. We realize that he's kidnapped Magneto. Magneto is still alive. He's taunting him. And yeah, we're like, you know what, Magneto? He tried to walk Xavier's path, but Magneto's path was the right path.
Tolerance's Extinction. Oh my God, I've watched this so many times. It's the perfect hour of X-Men. It made me want to read X-Men comics again until I got to like 4 pages in, and I was like, I'm just gonna go watch Tolerance's Extinction because these comics are hard.
So in this one, Bastion basically, we get his origins, and he's revealing his master plan, which is that this is slightly different from the comics, but it's pretty much in line. Nimrod, who is a super sentinel from the future, basically sent a part of him into the past, infected Bastion's dad, kind of overwrote his DNA.
The tip of this microphone is blue. That's so funny.
So Nimrod overwrote Bastion's dad's DNA. So when Bastion was born, he's got this pink skin. He's essentially a human cyborg hybrid, and he's kind of like Eren Yeager. He doesn't really have will of his own.
He's born a Sentinel, an advanced Sentinel, right?
He's born an advanced Sentinel, and he's
who Xavier tried to save.
He did. Xavier tried to recruit him into Xavier's school. His mom said no. And Bastion is a telepath, so a technopath, so he can control machines.
And he's turning average Joes, as he calls them, into Sentinels without really telling them what he's doing. They are all going after every mutant everywhere, always. And they're all like, Beast is in there with the reporter, and he's going, oh my heavens, they're everywhere. And then he's with the reporter, and then he gets the Beast kicked out of him. And the best line in the whole show, it makes me laugh every single time, is when Beast gets kicked upstairs and Wolverine goes, I gotta talk to Hank about his taste in women.
I gotta talk to Hank about his taste in women.
That's how you do a joke in Marvel, man.
It's so funny. And then we get, in my opinion, the best fight scene in this series when Wolverine is getting ready. He's like, I've got 6 reasons.
I got 6 reasons, Bubs.
And then Nightcrawler appears with the 2 swords and 1 on his tail.
No, my little friend.
9.
Lady, I got 6 reasons why.
No, mein Freund. 9.
Oh, so good. And he's like, yeah, wasn't really looking for a yes hand there, bub.
And the fight scene is awesome.
And Wolverine is like exhausted after taking all of them out. And then you see the rest of hundreds of them bellow down.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, how are they going to get out of this one, gang? And is that when we get the big moment?
That's when we
find out
that Magneto has been freed. Magneto hasn't said anything after he's freed by the UN woman, but he goes into the sky and he just says enough. And he wipes out all the power from the world and shuts down the Prime Sentinels.
Except Christopher Walken's.
Except
he's waking up in the middle of the night, and then all the lights go out, and what does he say?
He goes, where's the power?
Magneto was right here. I'm sorry. He saved every mutant's life. They were all going to die. There was no way out. They were all done. Bastion's plan was perfect. And he was a little too calm about Magneto getting out, because that is the one wrench you don't want out.
Even Doom wasn't really behind Bastion's plan. Doom's like,
no.
He's like, I'm not okay with these war crimes.
And his name is Doom. You know, it's Doom. You wouldn't think a guy named Doom wouldn't want things to go too badly. But he said, no. The episode ends with Wolverine being like, yeah, well, Magneto just declared war. And that's when you're like, oh, well, you know what? At least y'all still alive.
And who comes back?
Oh my God. Dude, because he literally goes, where's the professor when you need him? Like, y'all know he's on a different planet, not giving a fuck about y'all. And then he crash lands into the attic, which is a little concerning because what if like the X-Men were up there studying? He would have taken off his helmet and he would have been like, I hope I'm not too late. And they're like, you're not, but you just killed Rogue. She was sitting there. Yeah, my bad. Come to me, my X-Men -1. That's a great ending. And also what made me start to hate Charles, because I was like, wow, man,
I'm glad I said I'd beat him up.
Yes. Well, when the professor comes back, he's just he's Chicago. It's hard for me to say I'm sorry. When I left Magneto in charge, I thought he would have a change of heart.
Crazy if his number was 25 or 624. This clearly did not work out for you. He goes, anyone that wants to come with me, I'm going back into Asteroid M. We're just going to live off-world. Rogue is like, yeah, I'm going with the dude that I used to bang. Sunspot's like, hell yes, bro.
They go back to the asteroid.
They split into two teams, right? It's like one team is going after Bastion because Hank and Forge have created this kind of headband that will
without the neutralizer technology.
Without the neutralizer technology that will separate him from the Prime Sentinels, exactly. And then the other half go into space to confront Magneto. Wolverine's like, fuck it, stabs Magneto. Magneto's like, let's put an end to this. Rips the adamantium from his bones.
Rips him right out. Oh, what a grueling, gnarly shot that was, man. Like, and a mess. Oh, it haunts me. And episode 3 picks up with them trying to, he's obviously healing.
Xavier gets into Magneto's brain, which is such a faux pas for Xavier. He's vowed to never do this because, you know what? We need to turn the lights back on. So he controls Magneto. He reactivates the electricity, which unfortunately gives Bastion his powers back, but it also makes Magneto catatonic.
Yeah, and like has him in a bar that they first met, because we get that beautiful scene of him telling him he was a mutant. And then this is one of the most beautiful things I've seen in Marvel with the water metaphor. I love the water metaphor where it's coming in and he goes, we all have this, we all carry it, but we all have people out at bay who are trying to get to us and help us. But I thought it was such a beautiful thing, you know, like it was like Thor being able to lift the hammer in Endgame, you know, where he realized he was still worthy, and being depressed and going through things doesn't make you less than. It makes it, you know, it doesn't make you trash. And Xavier really appeals to Magnus's humanity in this bar, and just the metaphors of it are so great. Mind you, I am a little pissed off when it cuts to them just sitting there sleeping, and there's like a battle for humanity going on. But I know they got shit going on.
So the lights get turned back on. Bastion completely overpowers the X-Men, but then he's like, you know, we got to make an example. So he takes Cable and he's killing him. And even Sinister's like, bruh, the entire reason I was helping you was so I could get Cable and experiment on him. And Bastion's like, we got to set an example. But Jean, because she's able to access Madeline's memories, essentially gets activated by the Phoenix power. The Phoenix power takes her over.
I knew that was coming, by the way. I'm not going to lie. I saw that coming. I was like, they haven't said the word Phoenix once in this whole show yet. It's coming. Phoenix is that thing at the end of that American Dad episode, American Fung, where they got bought out by a Asian businessman, and he just made all these changes to the show, and they forgot to write an ending to it, and they asked him, well, what happened to Francine and Stan? And he goes, I guess everything just worked out. And that's how I feel about Phoenix. I was like, Phoenix is just going to come and
it was a Deus Ex Machina. And so the Phoenix is able to break Cable from his trance. She's able to overpower Sinister, turns him into an old dude. Literally, that's what she does. She turns him into an old dude, and they're able to
my face, and then Morph changes into his face, and he's like, "What do I look like?" And then he shows her what one of Khloe Kardashian's faces looked like, and he went, "Oh no, Lamar."
My dad is OJ. So they're able to get the headband onto Bastion. All the Prime Sentinels, as a result, turn back into humans. Bastion's like, you know what? Fuck it. He goes, if this plan didn't work, I'm just going to go into space, take over asteroid M, crash it into Earth. And of course, because the U.S. government is never a friend to the mutants, they go, all right, we
Or to
gotta,
anyone, or
or to anyone, and they go, we gotta nuke the asteroid. And of course, Cap and Tony are there and do nothing.
I gotta nuke the asteroid. I'm with Iron Man right here. I'm with Iron Man. Where is Tony Stark, by the way? Good guy, great guy, not as rich as me, but I got Iron Man right here. And Captain America, his name is Steve. I say that's a boring name for a superhero, Steve. And they said to nuke the asteroid. We nuked it, and they said it was going to land right in Puerto Rico. I said, good, no human casualties. Senator Kelly, President Kelly.
President Kelly decides to send the nukes, and meanwhile, Rogue sees Bastion, and she's like, you killed the only person I never loved, even though they never hooked up. Beats the shit out of Bastion.
I would have said that after someone I knew died, though, too. I would have way amped it up. They're like,
sure.
I was in love with him. My bodega guy, he's my best friend. He was my emergency contact. I'm going to miss him every day.
The nukes are still coming to asteroid M. Now the asteroid is falling out of the sky. The only person that can stop it is Magneto, because he controls metal, but he's still catatonic. But Xavier, in the last second, is able to get Magneto out of his trance. Magneto decides to blow up the asteroid. Bastion, specifically...
Comic book rule!
Yeah, comic book rule. He seemingly dies. No body. Bastion's clearly alive. And so they disappear. Forge is crushed. He's like, fuck. They gave their lives for us, and now they're gone. But Bishop shows up, and we haven't seen Bishop since episode 3.
And he goes, who the fuck are you breaking and entering into this mansion? God damn it, acting like we friends. Don't you know I'm racist? Something pulled them out, the asteroid, last minute. We don't know who, and we don't know where they are. And
it's not a matter of where, but when.
When. And then we cut to Egypt, 3000 BC. They're definitely setting up a season 2. But after
and who do they meet in the in Egypt?
Oh, who is that? I didn't know who that was. Who is that guy?
And Sabanur? That's Apocalypse.
Oh, right. Oh my God.
That's season 2. Meanwhile, Jean Grey and Cyclops meet a young Cable. And then we get a post-credit scene of the fully aged Apocalypse in Genosha. He's going through the rubble, and he sees something, and it's one of Gambit's cards.
God, I just got goosebumps. Man, I love animation. I love 2D animation. This was panel to page, absolute beauty. The Spider-Man cameo was amazing.
Yes.
Sorry for the pun. I didn't even mean to. But like that, I want Spider-Man 98. That would be amazing. A Fantastic Four, give us their show, because that was a great cartoon too.
Mm-hmm.
The Daredevil stuff in this show was great.
Cloak and
Dagger showing up. Overall, what are your thoughts, Brent?
I thought it was fantastic. I think it is the best superhero animated show I've seen since the original Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Justice League, Batman the Animated Series. Yes, I am saying this. I think this was better than Invincible. I love Invincible. I think Invincible is a masterpiece. I think this was better.
Wow, that's a bold opinion.
This tugged at my heartstrings in a way that no show ever did. I mean, it's like you said, the fact that this stupid character like Gambit, who I never cared about, made me cry. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that's a good point. Invincible, the only time I cried was when Nolan was beating up Mark, and he goes, what are you going to have after all this? And he goes, I'd have you, Dad.
Dude, I was thinking the same thing.
Oh, that's the only time that gets me. And then he flies into space and cries. When we read comics, we see ourselves in these heroes, and when we watched cartoons, we're sort of escaping what the real world is, and X-Men is sort of escaping the real world but also a translation of the real world. And in every single character, unlike Invincible, which like Invincible is kind of a coming of age story and a get back up story, this was, to quote George Lucas, about family. And everybody's character was intertwined with everybody else's character, like even Morph, who wasn't really around that much. Everybody has something to do with everybody. And I for that reason, I would say it had a more emotional toll on me than Invincible. I don't know if I would say better, but I agree. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, and Invincible, we've read the comics. We
Yes.
know things are going to happen that are going to tear at our heartstrings.
This show came out of nowhere. They announced it out of nowhere. We all had no idea what we were getting into going into it, and Disney has not found animation to be extremely profitable, so it has mostly stayed away from it. And I hope this showed them that we want more animated stuff that's not just What If, which is amazing, but I want more. Not to be the nerd, but like you're capable of it. I want more animated stuff that exists in its own animated universe, like how we had pre-Avengers, all those Marvel shows. That was only 10, 12 years ago. Time to bring it back. And especially with the X-Men, everybody loves the X-Men.
And those Marvel shows on Netflix were mostly amazing.
Mostly amazing if you don't watch the Defenders or Iron Fist.
Exactly. Or the second and third seasons of Jessica Jones.
I never even watched the first season.
First season's great.
Because in my mind, she died with Jesse Pinkman.
Yo, Mr. White.
Yo, Mr. White. There's like a blind guy who could like see Mr. White. Jesse, you're high. You're high, Jesse.
Magneto, bitch.
I do not think we're like it all. Mr. Xavier, you are in a wheelchair. I am the master.
Sinister.
You think so?
Esposito. I think he's playing Kang. I would love for him to play Sinister.
Same. Did we talk about this?
Yeah.
I
think we talked about it in Spokane.
Yeah. Brent and I have spent so much time with each other that our nerd conversations have began to meld. I think he's Kang too. But I also, he would be great in Sinister. Unfortunate that we won't see him as Magneto, but Giancarlo Esposito is such a great actor. I kind of don't want him to be a villain for a while. Not a Gus Fringy character, like watch Do the Right Thing and tell me how great of an actor that man is, Hey man, you scuffed my sneaker. I'm a bury you under my meth lab with a guy named Howard.
That is a good point. Gus Fring, Stan Edgar, and Moff Gideon. They're all kind of similar vibes.
Yeah, Obama. It's all the same kind of thing, I loved the show, and I don't like X-Men. You were with me when we were in Magoobies, and you saw the stack of X comics I had. I love this show because now I'm done reading a comic, and I watch a few episodes of not just 97, but all of it. Because it's X-Men out of all superheroes and all superhero teams, they are what you want them to be, I think. And they speak to people because most people, are marginalized groups, or they feel left out, or they feel like they were born a certain way and the world won't accept them. And the only difference is they're not led by a man in a wheelchair.
I have to shout out this man too. He's taken me to Spokane, Washington, and Timonium, Maryland for shows these past 2 weeks, and they're literally the most fun weekends. So
Two places at the top of everyone's vacation bucket list. But Brent killed, and he killed. There were so many Secret Identity fans that were out there. There were so many true believers. And
oh my God.
There was a woman that came up to us in Magoobies. It's going to make me cry again if I start thinking about it, because it was very powerful. X-Men 97, ladies and gentlemen. This is the ending. But this woman came up to us, and I want you guys to know how much you mean to us true believers. But a woman came up to us after the show, because I do the meet and greets, and she said, Secret Identity got me through chemo. And I didn't know what to say. I couldn't make the only thing I said back to her was, I was like, well, it's better than giving you cancer. Like, I didn't know what to say, but the impact that had on me was awesome.
If you're listening, it was so crazy when that was going on. I didn't even hear the chemo part at the time. I just thought she was just a Secret Identity helping her. I was just like, oh, that's awesome. When Troy told me that, there were tears in my eyes. I mean, that means the world to us. I mean, I think myself, I think a lot of people's families are affected by cancer, and so to hear this woman is cancer free was incredible. And just if you're listening, thank you so much. That truly meant the world to us.
Because the true believers come out to shows, and I can tell, when they're fans. And we turned one guy into a total Spider-Man freak. He wasn't a Spider-Man nerd until he watched our Craven episode, and that was only a few months ago. And he showed up to the show decked out in Spider-Man swag, and he asked us to sign Ultimate Spider-Man 1 that just came out. And the real, without you all, we would not be able to do this show. Nerds are looked at as sort of a fringe thing who you don't really have to work too hard to appeal to. And we read every comment. We take everything you say right in the heart. And much like Professor X has his X-Men, we have our true believers, except you don't belong to us. You could just come out and hang at the school anytime you want to cut class and sit in the cafeteria. And the honor you have bestowed upon us as your hosts is not lost on us. Trust me, we love you. And more importantly, we love when you love us. Don't like it as much when you hate us, but
No.
and definitely don't like it when you can hate Brent without being anti-Semitic. All right. Any last words?
I think you summed it up perfectly. As Troy said, true believers, you mean the world to us. Thank you for everything.
Until next time, Seattle, I'm Dr. Hank McCoy. I'm listening.
Hey there, true believers, it's me, Stan the Man Lee. Gee whiz, wasn't that a spectacular video? If you like that and want more, try clicking one of the videos you see on the screen now. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more. And as always, true believers, Excelsior!